You've seen the numbers before. Most people fail. Only 5% make it. The odds are against you. And when you hear that, you start thinking, maybe this just isn't for me. So you hesitate, you overthink, you hold back just enough to stay realistic. Because in your head, the outcome is already decided. I saw this happen so much in high school. For context, I attended an IB magnet school in the US. So a lot of kids around me not only wanted to get into really good US colleges, think like IB and IB plus, but some of them also wanted to try their hand at getting into schools like Oxford and Cambridge. And throughout all 4 years, I constantly saw people specifically doing things because of the statistics backing them. Summer programs were the best example of this. I can't even begin to describe the amount of people who would apply to summer programs solely for the reason that a lot of people who did those programs got into prestigious universities. And maybe you see this today in your school too. I mean, think about it. How many people apply to programs like Girls Boys States or RSI because they actually want to, compared to the people who are mainly applying to them for college? And while I myself wasn't good enough to get into those programs, I would also be motivated by their stats. But here's what you're not realizing. The moment you believe the statistic applies to you, you've already chosen your outcome. Not because it was true, but because you acted like it was. So in this video, I'm going to show you something most people never understand. Statistics don't tell you what's possible, they tell you what's common. And those are not the same thing. So think about this. If statistics actually controlled outcomes, how would anything new ever happen? At one point, Roger Bannister was told breaking the 4-minute mile was impossible, and then he did it within a year, and multiple people were able to follow him, and then the stat changed. Steve Jobs built Apple out of a garage in a world where people thought you needed massive resources to build something meaningful. Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook from a dorm room before anyone took that idea seriously. In these scenarios, the odds didn't change. Someone ignored them, and suddenly what was rare became possible. So this means that the real question isn't what are the odds, it's why are you so quick to assume you're not the one who changes them? And I already know what you might be thinking. Yeah, but those are exceptions. Those people are different. They don't count. But think about what that logic means. You're saying that the only people who succeed don't count. And that makes no sense because every statistic is made up of individuals, and the exception is just someone who didn't act like everyone else. That's it. That's the only differentiator. There's no separate category of human beings that the rules don't apply to. There's just behavior. And if someone else can exist outside the average, then by definition, so can you. The only difference is they didn't disqualify themselves before they even started. So I think generally people treat statistics like rules, like boundaries, like something they're supposed to obey. But statistics aren't rules, they're records. They're just tracking what most people did before you got there. But instead of seeing that, you see a low percentage and you translate it into people like me don't make it. Or if I do this, then whatever outcome I want isn't possible. And that belief is what actually stops you. Because the moment you believe something is unlikely, you stop giving it full effort. And when you don't give it your best, you wonder why you got an average result. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that most people can't accept that low probability, but does not mean low possibility. It means that most people didn't put forth their most effort. So when you hear only 1% make it, you shouldn't think that you can't do it because you could be the 1%. You don't have to be the 99%. And when you look at that number, I think so many people they immediately shut themselves down. They give up on their dream. I mean, some of this stuff can be related to medical school, or I've even seen some people give up hobbies. I mean, people around you want to be YouTubers, right? I mean, people always talk about it, right? The doctor who is looking into the mirror or is sitting alone in his mind, he wishes he was an author, right? And many people don't chase that dream because authors are told to be, one in 100,000. But you could be the one in 100,000. So instead of asking, what are the odds I succeed? Ask, what can I do to succeed, right? Because the odds aren't what define you, your actions are. So once you understand the steps that you need to take and you get a clearer picture of what has to be done, you can break the statistics. Now, I'm not saying that just because you see low statistics now, you should just keep going, but I'm instead saying that you have the ability, if you plan thoroughly, no matter what has been set in stone in the past, can be broken. And I would say generally, most of the time, even becoming the exception isn't about doing something extraordinary. It's just about doing the ordinary or doing what's needed for longer than everyone else. In most cases, at least, consistency is what separates the stat from the exception. So if you make different decisions, you get different results. And if we were to talk broadly, someone is always in the small percentage, right? If it's not you, then it's someone around you. But people around you are constantly being in the small percentage. I remember when I was in high people would always talk about whether or not someone was going to get into Harvard or if someone was going to get into Stanford or these like big schools, right? That you don't expect the average person to get into. And one of these guys actually knew was my friend. And he got into Stanford. And I remember thinking, that is crazy, but it also gave me the revelation that the people around you can always break the requirements and it can always break the statistics of what is ordinary. So why can't I? And that was a really big mental shift for myself back then. And it's something that I wish I knew earlier and is why I'm making this video actually is because I think more people need to hear that you are not bound by the numbers in history. Uh, I think people will say that history repeats itself, right? I think that's probably the bigger argument that is still existing. And while history does repeat itself in some cases, it doesn't have to repeat itself if you don't act like how the people in the past acted, right? History repeats itself when people do the same actions because they will then get the same consequences. So if you do the different actions, you will get different consequences. I think generally you just have to realize that this is your life, right? And if you follow the paths at any moment, you are not cooking yourself for the life that you want. I mean, think about whatever career you want. What was your dream career when you were a kid? And a lot of kids think about, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. You cannot let the statistics stop you from chasing those dreams, even when you get older. Changing the stats will not be easy, but you have what it takes inside of you to do it. And I believe in you in doing it because I know that we all have the power within us to do it. So now go make better moves, go change the world.